ladies and gentlemen, you are the last one that you will hear Holocaust and see Holocaust survivors, because we are getting old. I'm 95. You realize 95, like your great-grandmother. And there is just, so you remember that, and you will hear, you can tell your children, your grandchildren, I heard a Holocaust survivor. It isn't a pleasant film to see this way in the morning, but it is important because you have an idea what it looks like, what the cattle cars look like, what the camps look like, how hard the people had to work, and it's all, you have an idea. I come from Czechoslovakia. It was a small country, but as democratic as the United States. There was no discrimination. Nobody asked you what religion you are, what you believe in. It was just like the United States. But that came to an end. As I said, Czechoslovakia was a small country. The first country that Hitler, the German country, started off, they occupied Austria. And Austria was a German-speaking country, and they sort of welcomed it. They didn't know what is coming, so they said, well, it's another German regime. But they did not know what really happens. The next country was Czechoslovakia, but he didn't want to occupy the whole country. He only wanted a certain part that it's called Sudeten. And they were speaking German in that part. My brother lived in part of that country, and it was lovely. It was beautiful, but the occupants spoke mostly German. They had German schools and Czech schools. So Hitler said he only wants that part. So he got that. England and France and America at that time gave it to them, and he just occupied it. But then later on, in 1939, in March, he just occupied the whole country. Without there was no any fight. We were in school wearing a button. We will not give in. We knew that something like that might happen, so we said, no, we will fight. And my brother was in the Czech army, and he was wearing his uniform already. And he said, we are going to fight, but nobody did. So after the occupation, every Jew had to wear the Star of David. You see, it was all yellow, but different color yellow. In every country, it was a different yellow. So you had to sew one on in the front and one in the back. So whenever you walked, everybody knew that you were a Jew. So many people of Jewish religion. So people said, well, why did you have to sew it on? Because if you were caught without it, you went to jail. So nobody would dare do that. Anyway, we Jewish children could no longer go to school. Imagine, no school. So I met my friend Olga, and she said, Judy, why weren't you in school today? Because I'm Jewish. She said, but you were Jewish yesterday. She could not understand that there was suddenly a change, what we are allowed to do and what we are not. My father had a store. You could buy anything, like a little department store. You could buy everything. They put in somebody else who was German, and my father could no longer be there. But the money from the business was going to the government. But we had horses and cows and geese, you name it, everything. We had a big farm as well. So they took everything away, and they left us just one cow. We had many horses. I should have brought the picture of my horse. When I went to school, it was 6 kilometers, which is like 4 miles. And it takes 1 hour to walk to school, no buses, of course. So sometimes I took my horse to school. And what did I do? I tied him onto the gate, and the children, my fellow students, said, "Can I pet him?" His name was Rigo. And he was a very tall, black, beautiful horse with a white diamond in his face. And as the kids came out and they fed him apples and whatever they had, they loved them. But when it was winter, you know how I went to school? On skis. Or my father with the horses and a sled, and we came to school that way. Or when it was spring, guess how we went to school? On a bicycle. What a fun way to go. And everybody was envying me. They lived in town, but there were 2 boys and me. That's why we walked to school every day. And guess what? When we had a whole day of school, like in the afternoon, we had cooking or whatever. When we went home, it was like that, very dark already, like at 4 o'clock. By the time we came home, there was a wolf crossing the street. How do we told that to our parents? We said, we are afraid. So what did we do? We had a flashlight, and if you flashed it in front of him, he ran away. There was about 3 kilometers, there was not a house living there. Nobody lived there. So we just walked, the 3 of us, always. And if one of us got sick, we were so sad that one of them couldn't go to school because the 3 of us, we had a stick. We also had ski sticks. So we had it just in case somebody is going to attack us. Nobody would attack us, no people, but the animals or a dog or so. So going to school was really an adventure, and we loved it. Anyway, when we were still home, what happened in other countries, Jewish people had to leave their home. Can you imagine, to leave all your things and just suddenly go? And what did they do? They put all the Jewish people in a ghetto. Did anybody hear that word ghetto? Mm-hmm. You did. Well, what they do, they take one part of the town and keep the people there. So, and from there, they took the people that could go to work and use them to work. Every man, the age of 18 to 45, probably the age of your father, was taken away to a camp, they called it a slave labor camp. And what they used these men, they used them to go ahead of the German army as they occupied the countries. And they built roads and they did the hard work. And after that, the German army was walking in to occupy those countries. We were still home. We were fortunate that we did not have to leave our home. But we did not have the rights as we had before. We could not go shopping when everybody else. We could not. We had curfew. At 6 o'clock, we had all to be home. We couldn't listen to a radio. There was no television. We could not listen to the news because they took the radios away from us. But we did have one, and we hid it. And when we listened to it at night, somebody had to go outside and watch that no officers or no German policemen should see it, and we watched it. And then, when my father finished listening to the news, they put it away again. Our life has changed completely, but we were still home, not until that ended as well. There was one morning, it was 6:30 in the morning. There were 2 SS men. An SS man was a part of the German army. In order to be in that group, you had to be a pure German. The mother and father, if one of them was a Slav or any other nationality, he could not be in the SS, which is an elite type. Well, anyway, there was 6:30 in the morning. They knocked on the window, and they said, "You have a half hour. Take all your money and take all your jewels and come." What do you take in a half hour? So my father was a very religious man. He took his prayer book. My mother didn't want to go. She says, "I don't want to go. I am afraid what might happen." So we convinced her and we said, "Come, Mommy." I had my last manicure set. You didn't go to have my nails done. You did it yourself. So I took that. And we started marching. We lived 6 kilometers, 4 miles from the town. So we came to town and we were told to go up on a hill to the cemetery. That was a Jewish cemetery, you know, when they bury the bodies. And we were sitting, it was raining, it was snowing. We were sitting on the graves of our ancestors. And it was bad weather, we only had our coat. We didn't have any food. But that was Easter Sunday, and the priests in the churches, they said, the Jewish people are on the cemetery. If any of you would like to bring food, could you do that? And many of them did. I had a beautiful German shepherd. His name was Harry. Within that 1 week, they said, one person go home, bring more money, it will save your life. My parents didn't want to go, so I went. I'm a child of 6 people, 6 children. I was the youngest. My older sisters were except for one brother, they were all married already, and they have children of their own. So after that, my mother didn't want to go, so I went back home, and I asked the lady that worked for us, "Where is Harry?" She said, "He stopped eating and he died." So of course I missed my dog. And we still had some jewelry and some money. I looked at, I told her to make a bread and put it in the bread, hopefully that she should bring it to us on the cemetery. Well, she didn't do it. Hopefully she was able to keep it for herself. Now we were on that cemetery 1 whole week. After a week, we were put into a car and we were taken, they didn't tell us where. So they took us to a town in Hungary. That's a different country. The capital of that is Budapest. The capital of Czech Republic was Prague. So we came to that place, and that was thousands and thousands of people. That was called a ghetto. Very, very big. People from all over, from Hungary, from Czech Republic, from Yugoslavia, from all parts. Thousands and thousands of people. But we were about 30 families, mother, father, and children. They were all in one little house. We were very crowded, but there was a shelter, there was a bathroom, and there was a little food every day, a bowl of soup, maybe a piece of bread, but we were still with our parents. We were there 6 weeks. Girls, like young girls, 16 up to 18, they were watching children and cleaning the ghetto, and the boys. We kept busy. And nobody tells us anything. We don't know what's happening to us. We have nothing. All we have is that one type of clothes that we walked out. We were there wondering what is going to become of us. There were some rumors that they're going to take us to a work camp, which is fine. But that didn't happen. One morning they said all of us have to go to the railroad. This time we had nothing. We only had that one little satchel. We went and they told us to have enough food for a day. So the ghetto gave us a piece of bread and a little satchel. We came to the railroad and we were put into those cattle cars. Do you remember those cattle cars? 75 to 80 people. Can you imagine? These were adults, big people, not your size, they were full size, adults. And they gave us an empty bowl to use as a bathroom and one filled with water. And they closed it with an iron bar. We waited till the following morning, and we were wondering, there was no air. It was a little tiny window on top. That was the only air we got. And we were squeezed, just standing. We couldn't even sit. And we started moving. The train was going very slowly. The children wanted water. And when they finished it right away, we asked the SS man for some water. They said there is no water. When we reach a certain town, we might get some water. The stench was horrible. It was unbearable. But we were still together with our parents in that horrible, horrible condition. It was the 21st of May, 4.5 days later. We reached our destination. The doors opened, and men in the striped uniform, did you see it on the picture? These were prisoners already there. They came before. And the doors opened and they screamed, raus, raus, schneller. And the men in the striped uniform are giving us the orders. They say, line up in row of 5, women separate and men separate. There's my mother, my sister, my aunt, my niece, and myself. And my aunt's 3 little children, 2, 4, and 6. And then there is the men's row. There is my father, my brother-in-law, my uncle, my nephew, and another man. And the men in the striped uniform are running back and forth and looking at young boys and girls. And they're saying, 14, 14, 13, 14, in every language. And we look, what does he mean by 14? We ask them, what is this place? And they say, this is hell. There is a big sign and it says, Arbeit macht frei. Does anybody understand what Arbeit macht frei? All of you? That means that work will liberate you. So that means, okay, maybe we are going to be taken to a work camp. So you are hopeful. Now we stand again and wait. Then they look at them and you say, you are a doctor, you are a tailor, you are a shoemaker, you are a teacher. What does that mean? We are confused because we don't know. There is a band with men, young men and women playing classical music. We didn't know where we are. What does it mean? Anyway, there are SS men which are in uniform, and they are walking around with a German shepherd on their leash. They are not giving any orders. They just walk around. The orders are given by the men in the striped uniform. Out comes as a very tall man in a very nice uniform with the shiny boots. This was Dr. Joseph Mengele. He was doing the selection, and he was called the Angel of Death. So he announces, are there any twins? Any of you twins? No. Well,
Here.
oh, you are a twin. Thank God you were born in this country and at this time. He said, step out, you'll have a better life. Well, they did in a while, because they slept in a bed with a sheet, with a pillow, a blanket. They got better food, as you hear later. But experiments were done on them without any anesthesia. You should know from it. You know, if they did all kind of experiments. Then they asked, are there any pregnant women? You're going to have a wonderful confinement and you'll have healthy children. Step out. Then they came, and yes, and he stands there in front of our row, and he looks at my niece, who was at that time 17, and so was I, the same age. And he said, go to the left. Then he points at me to go to the left. And the rest of them are marching on. When I passed my father's row, he was standing further. Every Friday night he blessed us. He said to me, Judy, you will live. This was the last thing that I heard from my father. This was the last thing that I saw any of my family, 24 members of my family. We went to the left, and they went to their death. You are so young. I hate to tell you that, but you will know it, and you have to know what happened. Anyway, when we went to the left, we were all, the oldest person might have been the age of your mother, maybe 32. He wanted healthy people because he needed work. He used them to work in Germany and Poland. He sent them wherever he needed work. We, the ones that were picked by Dr. Mengele, we went to the left, and we went to an enormous building. We had to walk up 2 steps, and we were told to get undressed, and if we had any jewelry, we had to put it in like a ring or a necklace, and we had to put it in a little dish. Then we had to sit down on a chair, and behind the chair was a man that had a machine to cut hair. We had beautiful hair like you young ladies. They cut it completely bald. Could you imagine that? It was terrible. Then we were given a piece of soap, and we stood in front of a door where it says bath. There we got a shower. Unfortunately, our parents, they went to a room where it says bath as well. However, it was a gas chamber. When we came out of the bath, we were given a gray dress, unlike what you saw. Some of them had buttons, some of them had a belt. We did not have. Ours was just a plain sheet. You gentlemen wouldn't know what I mean. Just a plain straight dress, short sleeves. And we was in those big shoes, wooden shoes. And we were standing in line of row of 5 and waiting until everybody went through that Dr. Joseph Mengele picked. And we waited and waited until we started marching. We were in Auschwitz, but we are walking to Birkenau, which is this part of Auschwitz, 1 hour, because it was quite a big walk. The entire camp has barbed wire that if you touch it, you get electrocuted. After on every 5th row, there was an SS man with a gun and an SS woman on the other side. There is no way to run away or hide. There was no place to go. There was a big podium, and a man with a machine gun is pointing at you. There is no way to even think of escaping or running away. After an hour walk to Birkenau, we were put into a big barrack, 1,400 women in one big room. There were shelves. It was like a bookshelf, 3 of them. So only the face looks out, and were about 10 girls, one next to the other. Only the one on top that was lucky, they had air. But after a little bit, there was an alarm, and they told us that you cannot get out. And we couldn't do anything unless we were allowed to go. Anyway, a little bit about life in Auschwitz. You're being woken up, you have nothing. You don't have a blanket, you have just a wooden boards. And you lie one next to the other. How did we keep warm? By being close to one another. You're being woken up in the morning at, depends, 5:30 or 6. And you go out to be called, to be counted. They called it in German Zählappell. That means they were counting you. If there was one missing, where could she go? So she died. So you had to drag the body out to be counted. Then a few of them went crazy because they were so terribly traumatized, so they took them away. We stand there on line for hours, and Dr. Joseph Mengele comes every other day to look at you again, and if you had a pimple, then you were taken out, never to be seen again. But since we didn't get any food, you'll hear the food, we were pale, so we pinched our cheeks in order to look healthy. If he saw 2 sisters that look alike, he would take one away. We were there 4 or 5 hours by the time we were allowed to go to the bathroom. To go to the bathroom, a big deal. Indeed it was, because you only had a few minutes. If you couldn't do what you had to wait till the next morning, which is no problem because you get very little food. After that, you get a little bit of water, black water, it's like coffee, just about this much. You get nothing to eat all day long. In the evening, you have no spoon, you have no dish. You get a pot of soup, which is made out of turnip. Do you know what turnip is? You probably don't. It's a certain part of a type of vegetable. It's like part of the cabbage family, not even. It's cooked in a little bit of cereal to thicken it, so it should be a little texture. Once a week you get a 4-inch little slice of bread. It's so thin. If anybody eats the Münzenmeyer pumpernickel, that's how thin. You could eat it up in a minute, but you do not because you are afraid the next day is no food. You are so hungry, you're terribly hungry, but there is nothing you can do. Sometimes they take a few of us to go to work as the new transport, the new people coming from different parts of the world. So you look at that, if you find, they tell you, pick up a skirt, put the skirts with the skirt, the shoes pass up, but you're okay, you're very happy to do that, because if you find a piece of bread or something and the SS woman doesn't see, you take it in your mouth. So that helps you for your hunger. Most of the time you don't find anything, and if the SS woman would see it, she would hit you or kill you even for that. Anyway, we were there, yes, there is a roll call in the evening as well, the same thing, counting again and counting. We were there for 6 weeks. Again, he comes every day and asks, are there any twins come out? And of course, at that point, we already knew that it isn't advisable to admit, so they didn't tell him. After many, many weeks, 6 weeks in Auschwitz, we were taken to we were taken to take a shower again. After we were finished with the shower, we came out, we were given a blanket, a little blanket. What a treasure. We couldn't be happier. We were not taken back to the camp, but we were taken to the railroad. This time, we were put into a regular train, and we were going to West Germany, to Gelsenkirchen. Any of you live in West Germany? Any of your parents or grandparents? What city?
Next to Gelsenkirchen in Düsseldorf.
Düsseldorf, yeah, I know where that is. Well, not there. We were a little further, I think. I don't know actually how it's situated. And we came into a very late at night, and we came into a town. We didn't know where we were going. We walked 1 hour, and we came to a place where there were all white tents prepared for us. There were 2,000 girls, 2,000 Czechoslovak girls. We were, some of them had places on the shelves, some of them didn't. Those that came in late on the road, so they were sleeping on the floor. But we were happy to be out of Auschwitz because we were not put into the gas chamber. There we went to work. 1,000 of the girls, of the young women, were working in a factory. They were making ammunition. And the other 1,000 was working outside, building roads, building houses, building bunkers. I was among them outside. We worked very hard. We walked to work, and when we walked to work, the people that saw us go in the gray dress, no hair, and they said, "Die sind Leute von einer Hirnanstalt." Did you understand? Did you understand? Well, these are people from an insane asylum. They thought that we were crazy. But we could not tell them, you are not supposed to speak or look at anybody else. Just walk like that. So we didn't tell them. Anyway, we walked to work, and we did very, very hard work. And we were watched by the SS men and by the German army as well. And they were even worse than the SS. They said, work harder. You're not working fast enough. Do this, do that. It was very hard. But we had a little better. Now we got a spoon, and we got a bowl. When we came home, whether we worked at day shift or night, depends on what group you were. So when we came home, either at night or in the morning, we got a bowl of soup, we got a boiled potatoes, and we got a slice of bread, the thin bread. What a wonderful thing. It was already some more food. But we worked so hard. The bombs were coming, the Allies and the Americans were bombing the town. Many of our girls were killed by a bomb. But we worked extremely, extremely hard. After many weeks, we were told to go to the next city, which was Essen. There again, we were no longer 2,000 because many of us died and many of them were taken away. There, those that worked outside worked now at Krupp at an ammunition factory. This time I worked inside. I was putting in heavy pieces of iron, let it get hot, gave it to the next girl, she put it in ice. It was hard, very hard work, and it was cold. Our shoes broke, so we actually walked barefoot. If we found some newspaper, we wrapped it around our feet. But what happened to me one day? A piece of iron, not the hot one, fell on my left wrist and it broke. If you cannot work, you're being taken away. if you couldn't be sick longer than 2 days, after 2 days you're taken away, because he wanted the work. Where they were taken was your guess. I said goodbye to my niece and to my friends, and the next morning there was a transport with sick people, sick women. So I said goodbye. In middle of the night, somebody taps me on the shoulder. It's SS woman Erika. She said, "Komm, du Kleine." She called me little one. She took me in her little car to the hospital to put on a cast. I said, "What do I need a cast? I'm going to be taken away." She said, "Don't ask questions." On the way back from the hospital, she stopped off at Krug, where we worked, and she told the foreman, "I need this girl. She speaks many languages. If the Czech girl, or the Russian girl, or the Hungarian girl, or the Czech girl, or the Polish girl doesn't understand what the foreman wants her to do, your work is gonna suffer." So he gave her a letter, and she gave it to the head of the SS, and I was saved. Now, you children are fortunate to be in the most wonderful country, in best schools there ever. Fantastic teachers, all the best thing. Learn all you can, because nobody can take your knowledge away. In my case, it saved my life. In your case, you will utilize it for your career. Whatever you're going to be, a doctor, a lawyer, whatever. And nobody can take that knowledge away. But you have the chance, because you're so fortunate to be in. This is a very, very special school, starting already with languages. A lot of you probably are bilingual or 3 languages already, yes? I'm sure. Well, you want to be a scientist. You'll be anything you want to be. Anyway, we were still in that camp for many weeks. I had to go to work, which was no problem. But the only problem was, ever since we left Auschwitz, we never had a shower anymore. All we had is that little bit of water every day. And we had 3 minutes allowed to wash our face. Use a little bit of that water. That water is for drinking. So we had a little bottle of water, and that's all we had. And that one dress that we had was getting so dirty, so we had to save some water to wash that dress sometimes. And it was wet. We washed it. We were able to go into the bathroom to wash it, but we couldn't dry it because we only had the one dress. So what did we do? We put it on the bunk, and we lied on it, and from the heat of our body it was drying. Hopefully it dried by the morning. Anyway, we were still there for many, many weeks. We were diminishing. Many people could no longer, so they died and they were taken away, the bodies. And then one day we were told we have to go on the death march. You will hear that and you will read about it in books. But why was it called a death march? Because let's say there was a mother and daughter in the camp, and one could no longer walk, so she just lied down and wanted to die. But we wanted to save the one that was with her, so we had to literally drag her away, and we were not always successful. Then it took 3 weeks. We had to walk 3 weeks from Essen to Bergen-Belsen. We arrived in the camp of Bergen-Belsen. Anybody that survived that camp will live forever, because there was absolutely no control anymore. There was no hygiene. There were dead bodies all over. No hygiene whatsoever. But there were thousands and thousands of people. So today, she is distributing the food in this corner. So we stand on line already at noon, waiting in that corner, line after line, hoping that by the time it comes to you, you are in the middle of the row. By next day, you start standing in line at noon already, but she decides to go in that corner. So now you're lost. By the time you start moving, the line is so full, by the time you get to the food, it's gone. The hunger was unbelievable. No human being should ever be hungry. If you see a man on the street and he says, you have a quarter, and you have it, give it to him, because he might be hungry. And that's the way I do. I feel if I see him, maybe he is hungry, I will help. Anyway, we were in that camp. It was the most horrible, horrible camp. But we knew that the war is coming to an end, because we could not hear any news. We only heard Hitler's voice. He said, "Ich werde die Welt erobern. I will conquer the world." He had this feeling. And you know what? He focused very much on young people. That's why it is so important that we reach you young people and tell you what evil can do. So what happened? Even to the last minute, he knew that he lost the war, because the Russians were already occupying part of Germany, part of Poland, and even the Allies were coming. But he was still telling to his soldiers to fight to the last minute. We were there for many weeks. With hunger, we could barely make it. There was an epidemic with typhoid and all kinds of sickness. But you got sick, there was nothing, nobody can ever help you. Until one beautiful morning in April, we saw soldiers in a different uniform. And they said, they spoke English, "We are British, you are free." What a wonderful, wonderful thing to hear. We thought we will never see it. And I asked them, I spoke in English, are you sure you're not Germans? No, you are free. They gave us all the food they had, which is the wrong thing, because our stomach was all shrunk and everybody could eat anything, rocks. We could have eaten anything. And many people died because they shouldn't have eaten it. But you couldn't stop them, because they were so hungry. We were so hungry. We thought we'll never, never have any food. My niece she too was already completely yellow in her face. And she said, "Judy, could you get me something? Maybe a little grass, could you look?" But then the SS woman said, if anybody is ready to carry bodies to a mass grave, is gonna earn a bowl of soup. I found somebody from my hometown, and we were able to earn a bowl of soup. And then my niece disappeared. So I said, oh my God, she didn't want me to see suffer. Then, after we were liberated, they had to take everything from that camp and burn it completely down, because the epidemic was unbelievable. But now we are free. It took 1 whole year to cure me after I was liberated. So they gave us orders. They said, you can stay in Germany in a camp, and then from then go wherever you want to go. Or you can go back to your country of origin, wherever you lived before. But there was a Swedish count, and he invited many thousands of people, survivors, to go to Sweden. My niece was alive when I woke up in the hospital, and she chose to go back home to Czech Republic, and hoping she will find her brother. Unfortunately, he was killed 2 days before we were liberated. I chose to go to Sweden. I knew I have nobody left. I didn't know whether my brothers are alive, so I said, I'll go to Sweden. It took 1 year on and off from hospital, in and out, till I was cured. Then I went to school in Sweden. I learned my profession. I'm a technical writer and designer, and I learned another language. And nobody was so happy about freedom. The Swedish people were so friendly, they smiled at you. We thought that we were called Unmenschen, that we are not human anymore. But we saw that there is a different world, that we are that we are human. Anyway, after that, it took 3 years for me to come to the United States, because I had my grandmother here, my uncles and aunts, and I have one brother here who was fortunate to come here before the war. And nobody is as happy and wasn't as happy to come to a free country. Anyway, but as you hear, what you heard, what we went through, and I lost my family, but I do not carry hate, because if you hate, you only hurt yourself. The person that you hate doesn't know it and doesn't care. So rather utilize your energy and do good things in life, and you will be happy, and the person is happy whom you help. And you are so young to hear these horror stories, but it is important. But read all you can, whatever you can, and you see what discrimination, hate, intolerance can do. And I hope you have many questions to answer. I'll be very glad to answer. And I thank you for listening.